Hello everyone, welcome back to the Film Feast. My name is Sam Donchis. I am your host, and really quick, I need to explain why I canceled last week's episode. The short version? Technical difficulties. Long version? My sound fucked up! I lost a lot of shit, and it was stupid, and I just want to die! But it's a new week, a new episode, and I am going to quickly recap the news from last week. David Fincher exited talks for the director's chair position of the new Steve Jobs biopic penned by Aaron Sorkin. At first, Fincher's main request was for Christian Bale to star as Steve Jobs in the movie. Then he wanted $10 million and all of this creative control. And after having tons of creative control on both The Social Network and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, both Sony Pictures movies, Sony finally said, no thanks, we're gonna look elsewhere. And their next choice is the top story of the week, which I will be getting to momentarily. Leonardo DiCaprio lined up his next starring role in Alejandro González Iñárritu's next film, The Revenant. The film is an adaptation of a novel about a fur trapper in the 1800s who basically gets fucked over by his cohorts, robbed, and left for dead after getting mauled to near death by a bear. And so, he seeks out revenge. So this is a revenge thriller, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, decked out in fur, I can assume. And there's a bear involved, and it's DiCaprio going after all of his old partners, and it just sounds awesome. The next story is about the Mrs. Doubtfire sequel, which Robin Williams and director Chris Columbus will be returning for. I made a joke about the nostalgia train rolling back through town and bringing goodies for all the dickholes who just can't stop loving the 90s. It was kind of funny, and it's unfortunate that I lost it. But seriously, a Mrs. Doubtfire sequel? Why? Why? What's it gonna be about? Is Mrs. Doubtfire going to be a featured super nanny or something? I don't get it. So the short version is, I don't care. And you shouldn't care either. And then I talked about Avi Arad, the main producer behind all the Spider-Man films, and how he said that Spider-Man won't be crossing over into any other franchises. He feels like it would be a stunt, and that Spider-Man has a huge universe, granted he does, and there's so much stuff for him to do with the villains that surround him. And that's what they're doing with this amazing Spider-Man franchise, but they're doing it badly. And Avi Arad seems to feel that it's necessary to push it forward with the wrong talent behind it, frankly, and story elements that just feel forced. The Sinister Six sounds cool, but the way that they're leading up to it is just so contrived. I'm not saying that Spider-Man would fare better with another franchise, but I am saying that he would fare better with someone like Kevin Feige behind him. Kevin Feige and Avi Arad were once pioneers with Marvel Studios. They made it happen, but then Feige took over and just made it work in every way. Avi Arad, you're a dick. So just stop pushing Spider-Man in directions that aren't working. And finally, there was a story about Steven Spielberg's next film. He was going to be teaming up with Tony Kushner, the screenwriter who also wrote Lincoln and Munich, which made it seem like something that he would actually do. But then he announced another directorial project this week, so I don't really know what's going on with Spielberg. So to make it easier on myself, I'm just not gonna report on Steven Spielberg's directorial projects unless it's something big, like, the next Indiana Jones or something like that. And now for that top story that I was talking about. Sony has turned their eyes to Danny Boyle to direct that Steve Jobs biopic. Danny Boyle is another visually driven director, much like David Fincher, but in a different way. Boyle, at least in his later work, uses a lot of colors and flashy visuals in his films. Fincher, on the other hand, is a very toned down but also provocative director. You can watch the trailer for his newest film, Gone Girl, on YouTube. I'll put a link in the D-box. It shows once again that Fincher has a very distinct vision for his films, but I'm not sure it would match what Danny Boyle has in mind for the film. So if you were looking forward to a very Fincher-esque Steve Jobs biopic, I don't think this is gonna be it. And while Fincher wanted Christian Bale to star as Steve Jobs, Danny Boyle has a different actor in mind, and it is Leonardo DiCaprio. So could you see Leonardo DiCaprio playing Steve Jobs? I'm not sure I could at the moment. I was actually on board with Christian Bale in the role, and I should know better because Hollywood is very fickle and, things change a lot. Do you remember The Hateful Eight? Just a couple months ago, Quentin Tarantino had shelved the script after it leaked online to millions of film fans. In the fallout, Tarantino basically said, fuck you guys, I'm not gonna make this movie. We had originally planned on shooting it on 70mm and it was going to be beautiful, and now you get none of that. But he did do a stage reading of it with actors like Samuel L. Jackson, Kurt Russell, Amber Tamblyn, and Bruce Dern in attendance to read the script. This reading was apparently rough, as you'd expect, and had kind of an abrupt conclusion, but Tarantino said that he has new plans for a second and third draft of the script, and that he will eventually shoot it. And apparently Tarantino wants cameras rolling by next winter, but I'm not sure if that means this coming winter or next year's winter. It's Tarantino, so no matter how long the wait is, you're waiting for something good. So yeah, The Hateful Eight, not as dead as you thought it was. And now, from Variety, Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci are splitting up for feature film work. This is the duo behind Star Trek, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, Star Trek Into Darkness, and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Kurtzman's next project is already lined up. He will be directing the Venom movie for Sony Pictures, while Orci is lobbying hard to direct Star Trek 3, which would be a bad thing. I've read some of his personal beliefs online, and I think some of that factored very negatively into Star Trek Into Darkness and led me to sort of dislike it. And you can ask a lot of diehard Star Trek fans, and they will tell you that Roberto Orci fucked up Star Trek for a new generation. And while I was really hoping that Attack the Block director Joe Cornish would step up and direct this next film, that might not be the case. I really loved 2009 Star Trek, and if I could see this new franchise going in a much more positive direction that actually lives up to Gene Roddenberry's vision for Star Trek, that would be great. But Into Darkness was a huge step backwards. The other day, Peter Jackson released a statement on his Facebook page that the third Hobbit film would be retitled. No longer will it be called The Hobbit, There and Back Again, and now it will be titled The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. Kind of cumbersome title? Yeah. But this actually goes in line with Jackson's decision to make this one book into 3 movies, which is still a horrible and silly one. But again, this movie is about the Battle of Five Armies and not about Bilbo being there and back again. He states in this Facebook post that you might see There and Back Again for a box set eventually, and Peter Jackson's always thinking forward to the box set, the final special feature, shock-filled box set. But for now, they still have this third film to finish, and while I didn't like The Desolation of Smaug a lot, I am looking forward to finally ending The Hobbit's film run. From Variety, theater actor Ray Fisher has been cast as Cyborg in the Batman-Superman film, which I don't even believe is going to be called Batman vs. Superman anymore. And Fisher is joining an already huge cast. Henry Cavill playing Superman, Ben Affleck playing Batman, Gal Gadot playing Wonder Woman, Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Jeremy Irons as Alfred, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. It's too much. Yes, it's exciting to see Snyder pulling from a group of lesser-known actors like Ray Fisher and Gal Gadot, but I don't believe that he's moving this film in the right direction anymore. They're trying to play catch-up with the Avengers. That's all it is. But the Avengers did it right. Each film, while having connective tissue to all the other films, was solely about that individual. I guess Snyder felt that he told everything he needed to tell about Superman in one film, and that they just want to, press the gas and go straight forward to a Justice League movie. We'll see how it pays off in 2016, but I'm not very optimistic as of now. And now for the final story of the week. Lucasfilm has confirmed that the expanded universe of Star Wars will not be incorporated into any future Star Wars films. This is definitely kind of stirring the pot, because the expanded universe has really set up all these expectations that fans have for what's going to happen in the Star Wars universe, and it's been that way for decades. As a longtime Star Wars fan, I will cling to Shadows of the Empire with every last breath that I have. But at the same time, I'm very happy to see them distance themselves from the expanded universe. That will allow J.J. Abrams and all the other filmmakers to come so much more freedom with creating stories that will surprise and also, I think, excite audiences. And if they suck, you've always got the books, the video games, the comics, and everything else. So that's it for the news this week, and I have an announcement coming up. It will be in a separate video just days after this one, but all I'm going to say for now is the Film Feast is going to make a change. So stay tuned for that video, and go follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd and all that good stuff, and I will see you guys soon. Bye. Hey guys, real quick, just wanted to apologize for how extremely late this episode was. It's 2 weeks late, more than 2 weeks late. And I also wanted to address a couple of things you saw in the annotations to jump to the end of the video so that I can explain some stuff, because yes, some of my news stories are already kind of out of date. First, yes, I know Zack Snyder will be directing the Justice League movie. I'm going to do a separate episode of the Film Feast about this. I actually kind of like that Warner Brothers has finally just said, yeah, we're making it. And that they've already signed on Zack Snyder, whom, I'm a little ambivalent about, but whatever. The fact that he's directing it, I think at least they have the same person doing all these films. I think Batman vs. Superman, or whatever it's going to be called, is going to be rendered a little bit useless. But we'll see. Maybe they'll grab Ryan Reynolds and be like, hey, come be the Green Lantern, and then, with Ray Fisher as Cyborg and everyone else, they'll have at least a semi-full roster. I know that's not like a proper Justice League roster, but it works, I think. And the other quick thing I wanted to address, yes, I do know that Roberto Orci is now in official talks to be the director of Star Trek 3, and I'm not too happy about it. But, I'm not going to just throw judgments out there and say, oh, this is terrible, terrible news. I'm going to wait and see what he can at least show me in a trailer or something. And, with casting decisions and all that, there's a lot that goes into, play about being a director. It's how you handle it, on the road to principal photography. There will also be a separate Film Feast episode about that, so just stay tuned for all that. I still have an announcement video coming where I explain the changes that I will be making to the Film Feast. Expect that in the next couple of days, and thank you guys for watching.